Hi everyone, it's David from Lend Power here. Welcome to another episode of Invest Power series. Today I'd like to talk about equity. Do we all know what equity is? Because I think I'm getting a lot of questions about, what exactly is equity? It seems to be a buzzword in property investing, but everyone seems to be talking about it, but what exactly is it? So I thought I'll do a video today to demystify that a little bit. So we all know what it is and how you can calculate the equity and how equity can potentially take you to that next level in terms of your property investing. So let me give you an example. If you ask me how do I get to 7 properties so quickly in a short period of time, I will be able to tell you that because I took some equity out of my investment properties, and that's why I was able to leverage off that equity to make the next purchase in a shorter period of time rather than having to save up all that deposit. Today I've got an example here that demonstrates how if you've got equity in your home or investment property, you can actually use that to speed up the process of you getting into the next investment property. Okay, so fundamentally I'd like to cover a little bit about what exactly is equity first. So in a very simplistic form, equity is the wealth in your home or your investment property. And I think an easy way to illustrate that would be looking at this diagram which I've drawn. So let's assume this is your home, okay? Now the home has its value, which could be estimated by the bank. Now the difference between the loan and that value to an extent is equity, okay? So that's the simplistic form. It's basically the wealth in the home or in your property. But the problem is not all the equity can be taken out. Banks usually are very conservative, so they might only allow you to take up to 80% of that actual difference value. So I'll run through an actual example so that way you get the exact understanding on how much equity that is potentially that you can take out and how banks calculate that. And okay, so let's say today your home value is at $500,000. So you've got a home that's 500K, simple enough. 80% of that value is 400. Okay, so 400K is the actual 80% of that value. Now the loan might be at 300. So you've got $300,000 owing in the bank as of today. And therefore the equity component is essentially the 80% of the value of the property, subtract the loan. That's what the equity is, simple formula, okay? So in this case, it will be 100,000. 400K, subtract 300K, 100K. That's the equity, and that can be represented in this form. So, let's assume that the whole part, that's the total price, that's the whole value of the home. Now you've got the loan, which is $300,000. Banks look at it and say, yep, okay, so because of the fact that your home has increased in value over time, and therefore I'm willing to allow you to take out an additional equity of your home, and that equity can be presented by 100K. Now, there needs to be a purpose on the equity because banks don't just give out equity for free. They want to understand what you're going to use the equity for. So at a very simplistic level, usually as investors, we say we use the equity for investment property purchases. Some people prefer to use it for shares, and that's also okay. That can be accepted by banks. Some people use it for renovations, home renovations, or in renovating the investment property. So there's a couple of common ones. And so you need to, when we are taking out the equity from bank, we actually need to tell bank exactly how we're going to use the fund. And depending on the amount of the equity that we want to take out, bank will also want to see different evidences. For example, if most of the time it's over $100,000, most banks will actually want to see the evidence of proof that you are going to use this towards, say, for example, purchasing a property or renovating a home. In that instance, if you're renovating a place, they will want to see quotes. If you're purchasing a property, banks might want to see, okay, well, show me a pre-approval that's been done for the next property so that I know exactly what you're going to use the fund for, okay? So keep in mind, now why do banks do that? Because they don't want to just release $100,000, for example, to you without any evidence of what you're intending to do. Now, you could take that 100K and just blow it in a casino tomorrow. I think it actually happened in the past. That's why bank now implement this evidence-based equity pull-out strategy to say, guys, you need to tell me exactly what it is, and you need to satisfy my criteria to say this is going to be used for, you know, whatever it's meant to be used for, rather than just blowing it out somewhere. Okay. Okay, so assuming that we've got $100,000 equity that is sitting in the bank, approved, ready to go, how can we speed it up? How can we purchase the next property using that equity? Okay, so let's have a look at this diagram here on the other side then. We've told the bank that we're going to use the equity towards purchasing the next investment property. So let's see how we can actually make that work. Assuming that we're buying a property that's $300,000 today. So I'll put sales price is $300,000. We want to borrow at 80%, so that's $240K. Okay, purchase costs, just say about 25% of the sales price, which is $75K. Now, that $75K can be funded using either savings, equity, or a combination of both. In this case, because we have got $100,000 equity already, we can just use that equity instead of using your own savings. Do you see why? That's how you can actually leverage the equity to get into the next property quicker, rather than having to save up everything, okay? Now, because you've only used $75,000 equity, you still have $25,000 left. And that means if you've got a savings of about $500,000 or $50,000 that's in the bank, that again is another $75,000 that could potentially go towards your next investment property purchase. So equity is a very powerful thing in that sense, okay? Okay, so that basically gives you an idea about what equity is. Now, if you've got properties in Sydney or Melbourne today, as we all know that the current price trend is actually going down, I would suggest you contact your broker in order to see whether you can actually pull out these equity. Because what happens is as values continue to drop, as this value continues to drop, it's going to get closer and closer to loan value, which means your equity is shrinking every day. So my suggestion for you is if you have not pulled out the equity at this point in time, contact your broker ASAP in order to do an assessment and see whether you can actually pull out some of the equity as soon as you can before the value continues to drop even further, okay? I'm David from Lend Power. Thank you for watching another episode of Invest Power. And if you like this episode, don't forget to click the like. If you've got any questions, feel free to comment below. Otherwise, I will see you guys in next week's Invest Power episode.